My dear students, it's a continuation of our earlier video on second module of second MCOM, second semester MCOM RBA. See, the next topic to be discussed here is Banking Regulation Act of 1949. This is one more subheading which is to be dealt under the second module of our Reserve Bank of India. See, the contents of this particular act are introduction and origin of Banking Regulation Act of 1949 and what are the provisions under Banking Regulation Act of 1949. The provisions are definition of banking company, business of banking company, capital requirement, liquid assets, licensing of banks, opening of new branch, loans and advances, inspection of banks, powers of RBI, returns to be submitted, acquisition of business, winding up of banking company, management, amalgamation of banking companies, and miscellaneous. That is the 15th point to be discussed. That is the miscellaneous. Under that we are going to study penalties. Now let us take one by one in detail. Coming to the introduction part of Banking Regulation Act, banks are public service institutions dealing with the funds of the public. Unlike joint stock companies which obtain the required capital from the shareholders, banks obtain a very large portion of their working capital from the public in the form of deposits. Hence, in the national interest, there is a need to regulate the working of the banks by a separate act. Now, that is the introduction part, what we have understood. Coming to the second part, that is the origin of Banking Regulation Act of 1949. Unfortunately, in India, there was no separate legislation for banking till 1949. So, banks were brought under the control of Indian Companies Act. Though the Central Banking Enquiry Committee recommended the need for a separate legislation, it was not given due consideration. However, subsequent developments like mushroom growth of banks with inadequate capital, dishonest management, speculative investment, appointment of incompetent directors for a long periods with a high salaries, poor liquidity of funds, etc., necessitated the passing of a separate act for the banking companies. Accordingly, a bill was introduced in March 1948 and was passed in the Parliament in February 1949. It came into force from 16th March 1949. This act was originally called Banking Companies Act 1949 and now it is renamed as the Banking Regulation Act of 1949. That is the origin part of our Banking Regulation Act. Now, what does this particular act say about the provisions of the banking companies in India? In that, let us try to study one by one. In that, the first important thing is definition of a bank. That's very important thing. Or definition of banking. A business of banking has been defined in section 5, subsection B of the Act as follows. Accepting for the purpose of lending or investment of deposits of money from the public, repayable on demand or otherwise, and withdrawable by check, draft, order or otherwise. This definition is very comprehensive in the sense that it has clearly mentioned the purpose for which the deposits can be accepted and that such deposits must be withdrawable by check, draft, order or otherwise. Hence, moneylenders, indigenous bankers, etc. do not come within the scope of this definition since they do not deal in check, draft, order or otherwise. See, that is the definition part of our banking companies in India. Coming to the business of banking company, here the kinds of business that can be done. Apart from the main business that is listed under section 5 subsection B of the Act, banking companies are allowed to carry on other forms of business that are stated in section 6 of the Act. They can be classified into two types. One, main functions, and the number two is subsidiary functions. There are two functions which are to be transacted by the bank under the second heading, that is the main functions of the bank, and second one is subsidiary functions of the bank. See, coming to the third is next important point what is to be understood here is that the kinds of the business that cannot be done by a bank. It was found that a combination of trading with banking business was one of the major causes for banking failures. Taking into consideration the above fact, the present Act by Section 8 prohibits a bank from carrying on trading activities which are not incidental to the banking business. However, it can deal in those businesses that are permitted under Section 6, subsection 1 of the Act. That is the second important heading. See, coming to the third important thing, what is to be understood here is that what is the capital requirement of a bank? See here, prior to the passing of the Act, banks were stated with meager capital. However, the relationship between authorized, subscribed and paid up capital was not exaggerated one. It led to the starting of more bogus companies which failed subsequently within a very short period of their establishment. Again, then the Companies Act permitted the banking companies to create a charge over its uncalled capital, and it is also allowed the issue of ordinary and preference shares which were not at all suitable to the banking business. The present Act removes the above said defects. Section 11 of the Act lays down the minimum capital requirement. It classifies the banks into two, foreign banks and Indian banks, for this purpose. The following statement shows the requirement of the aggregate of paid up capital and reserves for the foreign banking companies. A. If it has a place of business in Mumbai or Kolkata or both, 20 lakhs. That's very important thing. If it has no place of business in Mumbai or city or Kolkata, 15 lakhs. That's the capital requirement part of the bank. So coming to the next important point, what is to be taken into consideration is management of the bank. Board of Directors. Section 10, subsection A provides that at least 51% of the Board of Directors of the banking company must consist of persons who have special knowledge of accounting, agriculture and rural economy, banking, economics, law, but they should not be the proprietors of any trading, commercial or industrial concerns. See, once again I would like to repeat. Board of Directors, Section 10, subsection A, provides that at least 51% of the Board of Directors of the banking company must consist of the persons who have special knowledge in accounting, agricultural and rural economy, banking, economics, law, etc., but they should not be the proprietors of any trading or commercial or industrial concerns. Every banking company shall have a chairman who will be a professional banker. He shall be entrusted with the management of the whole affairs of the banking company, subjected to the superintendence, control and guidance of Board of Directors. His appointment shall be made by the banking company, subjected to the approval of the Reserve Bank of India. Next, let's proceed to the next important, the fourth important ingredient here, liquid assets. Poor liquidity of funds was one of the major causes for bank failures in India. Maintenance of a sound liquid position is the basis for the success of any banking venture. Unfortunately, it was conspicuously absent in those days. Considering this fact, very strict provisions have been made in the present Act for each banking company to achieve and maintain liquidity. This is the fourth important point what is to be understood here. Next, let us know something about the licensing of the banks. See, under licensing of the banks, Section 22 of the Act requires every banking company to obtain a license from Reserve Bank of India before commencing the business. I repeat, Section 22 of the Act requires every banking company to obtain a license from the Reserve Bank of India before commencing the business. In granting the license, the Reserve Bank of India will consider the following facts. Number one, whether the bank will be in a position to pay its present or future depositors in full. Whether the affairs of the company are not being conducted to the detriment of the interest of the depositors. In case of the foreign banks, in addition to the above requirement, the law of the government of their origin does not discriminate in any way against Indian banks. Their business in India will be in public interest. They comply with the provisions of the act of the country of their origin. These are some of the important points what are to be understood for licensing of the banks. Next important thing, opening of a new branch. If there is no control on opening of the branches, there will be keen competition among the banks and all of them will tend to open branches only in big cities and towns. Hence the need for this provision. Section 23 of the Act lays down that every banking company should obtain a prior permission from the RBI for opening a new place of business. The consent of the RBI is not necessary when the banking company changes the place of business. The Reserve Bank of India may also grant conditional license, in which case the permission will be revoked if the bank fails to comply with any of such conditions. So the next important point here is that loans and advances. In the interest of the public, the banking system as a whole, the Reserve Bank of India, if necessary, can control the loan policy to be followed by the banks. The Reserve Bank of India may issue directives with regarding to the following. The purpose for which advances may or may not be made. The margins to be prescribed. The maximum amount of advances a bank may give to a company. The maximum amount up to which guarantees may be given, taking into consideration the facts mentioned above. The ratio of interest and other terms and conditions on which loans or guarantees are given. So this is something about the loans and advances under Banking Regulation Acts. Inspection of the banks. The present act permits the Reserve Bank of India to conduct inspection of the bank on its own initiative with a view to establishing sound banking traditions by drawing the attention of banks concerned to their defects and unsatisfactory working methods. Section 35 of the Act contains the following provisions for inspection. The RBI has been given power to inspect the books. During inspection, any director, officer or employee of the bank is under an obligation to produce all books of accounts. Any officer of RBI conducting inspection has a right to examine any director, officer or employee. The RBI of India may conduct such inspection either on its own initiative or under the direction of the central government. See, now let us proceed to the powers of RBI under Banking Regulation Act of 1914. See, the powers are listed as follows. Number one, power to issue license for new banks. Power to determine the credit policy to be followed by the banks. Number 3, power of inspection. Number 4, power to issue directions. Number 5, power to control management. Number 6, power to advise the banks. Power to assist in proposals for amalgamation. Power to receive and scrutinize the returns. Then power to appoint liquidator. And additional powers are also there, and it has the power to give advice to the central government also. Now let us proceed to the next one, returns to be submitted under Banking Regulation Act of 1949. See, the business are required to submit the following returns to the RBI in the prescribed forum and the manner at the close of the business on last Friday of every month, or if that Friday is a public holiday under the Negotiable Instruments Act, at the close of the business on the preceding working day. Number one, return of liquid assets and liabilities, return of unclaimed deposits, monthly returns, return of annual accounts, additional information, the amendment of ordinance powers of RBI, etc. Now, let us go to the next important thing, acquisition of business. Under section 36 AE to 36 AJ, they provide acquisition of banking business by the central government on the following recommendation of RBI. The Reserve Bank of India may recommend under the following circumstances. When the banking company fails to comply with the directions given under section 21 or section 35A, when the banking business is carried on to the detriment of the interest of the depositors, when the Reserve Bank of India fails to provide credit in a better manner generally or at any particular community or any particular area. Winding up of the companies is the next important provision under section under Banking Regulation Act of 1949. The banking company can be wound up like any other company, compulsorily or voluntarily, subjected to the supervision of the courts. See, next we have amalgamation of banking companies. In order to strengthen the banking structure of the country, the RBI has been encouraging the amalgamation of small banks with big ones, provided such a merger in the interest of the depositors. The procedure for amalgamation is given in section 44A of the Act as follows. Number 1. A draft scheme of amalgamation containing all the terms of amalgamation must be placed before the shareholders of each banking companies concerned separately and approved by the resolution passed by 2/3 of the majority. A notice of such meeting must be given to every shareholder of the bank concerned, indicating the time, place and objective of the meeting. The shareholders who have objected to such a scheme of amalgamation are entitled to claim the value of the shares held by them. Besides the approval of the shareholders, the scheme has to be sanctioned by the RBI. Again, once the scheme is sanctioned by RBI, the assets and liabilities of the amalgamated banks are transferred to the absorbing company. The amalgamated bank will cease to function and shall stand dissolved by reason of such amalgamation on a specified date notified by RBI. A copy of the order must also be sent to the register of the companies. See, now let us proceed to the last important phase of our discussion, that is the miscellaneous provisions. Under that, you have part 4 of the Act deals with the following miscellaneous factors, that is penalties under section 46. For submitting false or inaccurate return, the penalty is imprisonment up to 3 years and fine. For failure to furnish the document, account or information during inspection, penalty is up to 2000. If the offence continues, a fine of 100 per day during the continuance of the default. For receiving the deposits in contravention of an order by the RBI, the penalty is the fine up to twice of the amount received. Failure to comply with the provisions of the Act, the penalty is up to the fine of ₹2000, where a default is a continuing one, a further fine of 100 for each day. Where default has been committed by the company, every person who at the time of the default was responsible to the company shall be deemed guilty of the default. See, this is one of the important topic to be covered for your examination purpose. In our next session, let us try to understand the banking system and CRR and SLR. Thank you.